I had a interesting gig. It's one of these gigs that I said yes to months earlier, and then when it started to get closer, I realized, what am I doing, right? My buddy, Matty Abrams, a nice young Jewish fella, he went to this camp growing up outside of Boston, Camp Avoda. It's a Jewish boys camp, and it's on a lake.
I'm not laughing at
It's funny,
fact that exists. It's that you carried it around with you like some cherished childhood memory, this Jewish boys camp, so much so that there's a reunion. I didn't even go to my high school reunion. This guy is going to a reunion of a camp filled with Jews. Usually a camp filled with Jews is a bad thing.
Bam! Hilarious. Damn it. Let me do that gig next year. I'll save that. So they have alumni week every year. So we're leaving super early Saturday morning. We get to the camp. Nice looking place. It's on a lake. It's a big field. It's what you'd expect it to look like.
Right.
And I get to the sleeping environment. And I knew to bring a sleeping bag to put on a mattress. So I knew there was a sort of like bunks. But it's literally in a shack. It's dirty. I took a picture. I put it up on our Twitter at Rob and Joe Show and our Facebook Rob and Joe Show. This reminded me when I was in Afghanistan. Like, literally, this is the same kind of thing, okay? So I'm like, Jesus, I'm just going to have to get hammered just to sleep tonight, right?
Hammered on what?
Well, I knew they had beer there, which is not really my go-to pounding. It was an incredibly unhealthy weekend for me in terms of eating and drinking. Awful. Lost 5 years ago. Anyway, on the way up, though, I learned something about Matty that a year ago, he had done this, there's a podcast this guy Brandon Weatherby does. We're Facebook friends. He's fairly accomplished. He's associate editor of Huffington Post DC. He's got a podcast where comics perform. It's live. They do their set and they interview them.
Right.
And this guy, Matty, apparently bombed on his set and then essentially lost it during the interview. And
are you serious?
Yeah, basically like, you fucking hipster, I could kill every one of you fucking cunts, you know. So he convinces Brandon, can you not play that on the podcast? I apologize. I lost my cool. I had an awful set. I just didn't like the whole vibe, whatever. So he doesn't put it on the podcast. No harm, no foul. Fast forward like a year later, there's this guy, Isaac Hirsch, who's a young comedian, goes to University of Maryland. He started an anonymous blog basically each week focusing on the worst comedians in the area.
I like that, by the way.
Yeah, right.
Being anonymous, though, that's cowardly. You don't do that. But I want to hear what he's got to say.
So one of the people that he wrote about one week was Matty Abrams as being an awful comic. Somehow he knew the guy who produces the podcast who actually had the audio of this. And so he put a link to this. The thing that Matty had thought was done, no one was ever going to hear it. Now it's out. It's on the internet. So Matty doesn't know this. He gets an email from his brother at work saying, hey, did you see that article about you? By the way, his first day on the job, new job. And he's a sensitive guy to begin with, right? Not a good trait for a comedian. So he's all bitter. And Isaac Hirsch had, by the way, put this on his Facebook. So you figured out that it was him. So now he wants to kill Isaac. He convinces him to take it down. Anyway, he gets an email from the guy who's running this show, the Jewish thing. Hey, just want to let you know, it's going to be rowdy, so, you know, I read that article. I don't want you to lose your cool and stuff. So now he's all, oh, shit, they know about this? Who else knows? So now it's totally in his head, right? So we're driving up, and I'm getting the vibe. He is psyching himself out of this set completely. I'm like, dude, this is you, man. You know, you have the inside jokes. You know, you should crush this thing.
They're rooting for you. You're one of them. Yeah.
Right. You have the inside, the home court advantage, if you will. You have the knowledge of this place, the stories you can tell. You can kind of roast people. And he's like, I don't know what I'm talking about. Some of the people have heard my jokes before. And I'm like, dude, just relax, right? So anyway, we get to the show. You know, it's just a dumb, shitty room. You know, it's dirty.
Right.
It's not even set up when we get this. It's like they didn't even give a fuck. And I could just say, Matty's just, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. This is going to be awful. I'm like, dude, you'd stop with the negativity, right? So he goes up there, immediately awkward, you know, immediately just saying this is going to suck. Oh, God. And then he mentions, hey, did anybody read that article? They're all like, yeah. And now I'm like, I'm starting to get the vibe that they want him to lose it. They want him to... What is happening? Like, do they want him to do well? And I'm like, just tell some jokes. And he half-ass tells jokes, and it's just very meek and just no confidence. It's just, why? guy, just give yourself a chance, dude. And then later on, he sort of divulged to us that he put a lot of pressure on him because they kind of would fuck with him when he was younger there. And I felt like he wanted to, like, hey, look at me now. I've made it.
Meanwhile, they were all like, hey, we were right about this guy.
Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah. So instead of being the hero, he's now the biggest goat ever. Right? So I'm like, well, this is not cool, right? He's talking about now retiring from comedy. Totally defeated. But
is he going to retire?
I don't know. He was supposed to come to my open mic Wednesday, but he didn't show up. So
that's a hell of a way to go out if that's what he's choosing to do.
Yeah.